Thank you so much for staying with us. Now we'll head straight to our major discussion, where we'll be looking at the Democracy Day celebration. We'll be reviewing it, 25 years of unbroken democracy in the country. We'll be looking at the polity, as it were, and the challenges, achievements, way forward. We have with us live here in the studio, Comrade Emmanuel Obidi. He's the president, Network of Civil Society of Nigeria, NACSN. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers, and happy Democracy Day.
So should I now say it's been a while?
It's been a while. Thank you for having me.
All right, we are still expecting Austin Adigwe, who will be joining us from Lagos, and also Comrade Daniel Okpe, who is also joining virtually from Kaduna State. But let's begin with you, Comrade Obedi. Yesterday was supposed to be a day of joy, per se. It's supposed to be a day for sober reflection. We still had some persons in Lagos under the Ikeja Bridge expressing their displeasure over what they call a government that is not sensitive to the plight of the people. Now, 25 years of unbroken democracy. What says you?
Yes, thank you very much. I think I will agree with you entirely. It was a day of mixed feelings, a day of joy in some aspects and sorrow. And for me, I would say a day of happiness or a day of joy, because since 1999, by way of our achievements, we've had about 7 different governments, coming into play in the democratic system. And we've had successive civilian to civilian transition of government. We've had from the north, we've had from the southern part of the country. We had Olusegun Obasanjo handing over to President Yar'Adua. We have Yar'Adua, unfortunately, who died in active duty or in office, handing over by way of a democratic system. The vice president, ascended into the office of the president, which is a democratic practice. And good luck, Ebele Jonathan from the south, handing over to another northern president. And today we are having President Muhammadu Buhari handing over to Tinubu, which is the government where we are. So if you look at that aspect of democracy in the country, you say, yes, for the past 25 years, we've had successive transition. It is good. But no, not a thing to be happy about, because when you now look at the other aspect of what democracy actually means and what it means to the people, okay, the rule of law is one ingredient of democracy. Freedom is one major ingredients of democracy, and inclusiveness in governance. Why are people clamor for democracy and a shift from the military rule? Because as an agitative or a government of dictatorship, you don't have an opportunity to participate. The citizen does not have opportunity to participate. They are not involved in governance. They are not involved in policy making. What you just have is decrees, and they just make decree, and that is all. So it was expected that democracy was supposed to be a government that will bring inclusiveness in its entirety. Participatory democracy, where the Nigerian people will be able to participate and be involved in governance. And also, it is expected that in democratic system, we are supposed to have, the democratic kind of leadership, moving people away from poverty. But today we have more poor people in the country than we had in the military days. In democracy, we are supposed to have freedom. But can we really say that in the Nigeria states today that we have freedom of expression, we have freedom, people free to express their you know, their issues, their grievances. What about the rule of law? What can we say about our judicial system, how it has evolved over the years? What can we say about the recent various judgments that is churned out of our various courts, either of coordinated jurisdiction or otherwise? Now, if you look at all of this, you see the influence of democratic government affecting institutions, driving institutions to their own personal interests and all of that, having very strong individuals in the system and in government with very weak institutions. You will say democracy has not fared very well for the past 25 years. And if it has, democracy is supposed to be the best form of government that will give the people the dividend of democracy and that sense of belonging as a citizen in every system. Yeah. But today, the people are deprived in a country that is very endowed and rich, yet we have very many poor people.
We will come back to you very much. Thank you for that beautiful insight into the conversation. Let's get now to Lagos, where Austin Adigwe is standing by, and he's going to be part of the conversation this morning. Good morning, Austin Adigwe.
Good morning, Daniel.
All right, just to let you know that Austin Adigwe is a financial expert. He's a public affairs analyst. He's a songwriter. Actually, some of his hit track is Answer and Chizaram, which is actually making round globally. Austin Adigwe, help us now make sense out of the conversation. What says you, 25 years of unbroken democracy, are there challenges?
Obviously, we have challenges that are not necessarily insurmountable, but the managers of the economy or the nation has actually shown lack of political will to surmount some of those problems. So celebration of Democracy Day, for me, there must be an object to every celebration. Hence the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in section 14, subsection 2, captured what should be the primary objective of government, which is welfare and security of the people. So I'm going to discuss from that angle. I'm not a security expert, so I leave it maybe for other discussants. But looking at welfare, which relates to the economy, I do not see any reason why any Nigerian should be celebrating. If the object of the celebration is because we've had 25 years of civilian transition from one administration to the other, I strongly believe that it's not enough, because the economy controls everything. We shouldn't be celebrating when the economy is actually experiencing the most difficult, the most trying times in the history of Nigeria. We are looking at the issues that we are facing, which borders on the relative exchange of our currency to third-party currencies. And we've all agreed that the way out, medium-term to long-term solution to the problem of Naira is for us to become productive, for industries to start producing, for everybody to become productive. And at the same time, we are seeing the exodus of multinationals. We are seeing the closure of even small businesses within the system. It makes no sense. Why should we be celebrating? Diageo has just announced that they will be selling off their interest in Nigeria. That's Guinness. So if the new owner chooses to pursue that line of business, fine, but there will be job losses. Nigeria, and they gave us reasons why this has to happen. Between September of 2023, July of 2023 and March of 2024, they sustained a total of 61.9 billion losses in foreign exchange issues based on the policies of the current administration. 61.9 billion in losses. How about Nigerian breweries? These are established organizations that can actually withstand some of this shock. Nigerian breweries suffered 153 billion in foreign exchange losses, and that has led them to shutting down 2 of their plants in this country. you should also look at the job losses that will follow. If you look at the likes of Cadbury and Nestle, check the 2023 audited financials. You see the same traction. Losses. Cadbury moved from 1.2 billion in profits to 28 billion in losses. So there is really nothing to celebrate. There is nothing to celebrate.
Okay, let's quickly join Daniel, who is also joining us from Kaduna State. He's the chairman, Eagle Brain Youth Transformative and Development Initiative. He's the person of Daniel Okwe Ejembe. Good morning and good to have you on the show.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Good morning this morning.
Welcome to TMI. Now, let's have your say on the conversation. It's been 25 years and you've listened to other discussants on the program. What's your take? Do we have problems? Are they surmountable?
Yeah. The first questions that I need to ask and the first answers that we need to provide so that we can go further is ask ourselves, are we really practicing democracy? Because democracy is the government of the people, for the people, by the people, and for the people. But what we're seeing today is a solid kakistocracy, where the least people in the society rule the entire country without vision. We don't have a visionary leader. There is no way. I look at the topic. I prefer military regime than this, because all what we are enjoying today is military government that provided all the facilities that we are enjoying today. Since 1999 that democracy took over, we have not enjoyed anything. No freedom of speech, nothing. What we are seeing is a particular section of Nigerian people who have cornered our resources at the detriment of the masses in order to subdue our voices. So there is nothing to celebrate. I'm not seeing this as a democracy. What we are practicing is kakistocracy.
Okay, Daniel, we will return back to you in a moment. We'll get back to you. Just still hold on. Let's get back to the studio. But just to let you know that whatever opinion our guests share here, it doesn't have anything to do with ITV network. It's their opinion and it stands at that. But we are practicing democracy. Military rule has gone and it's gone forever. From 1999 till date, there's some laudable achievement that we can point to since we started practicing democracy?
Well, you see, like I said, it's in this aspect of achievement and all of that, it's a yes and no. The major, because the subject is democracy.
It doesn't have a direct answer.
Do you understand? The subject is democracy. I think the only laudable achievement in terms of democracy that anybody can point to is in 2003, perhaps 2002, 2003, there was a large or a very loud debate as to having the then president coming for third tenure. And then the National Assembly that we had, were able to stand for democracy. To say if democracy or the kind of government that we are practicing was such that a president can only have two tenure, there is no need for us pushing for third tenure. And at that time they stood against it and we were able to pass. That is one aspect in rescuing democracy from the very iron grip of those who are power drunk, and that has sustained our democracy to date. That subject has never resonated in our political landscape again. It has been a very continuous,
some members of the House of Reps, they are actually proposing it now.
Yes, no, what they are proposing now is different. They are proposing a 6-year single tenure and a rotational a kind of a power rotation between the north and the south and within the 6 geopolitical zone, which is very laudable. So at that time, they were talking about after first tenure, second tenure, a president wanted to go for third tenure, and that would have been an avenue for the military to invade the country again and will fall back to where we are coming from. So that was an aspect to wrestle and rescue democracy. But what other achievement have we had? It is 25 years since 1999. If you have a child of 25 years, by now he's an adult that can be responsible for himself and also be able to be self-dependent. Now, from the analysis of my friends, looking at the economy, is Nigerians self-dependent and self-sufficient in any of the resources that we have, blessed and endowed by this country under democracy? The answer is no. Let's take, for example, our crude oil. Nigeria still remains the only OPEC country that exports its crude out and imports a refined product. So still with the staggering argument of whether subsidy is gone or subsidy is still very much intact. Paying subsidy or not paying subsidy. Nigerians are paying through their nose to buy, to get, and to even access, the products that crude oil churns out, PMS and AGO. Till date in this country, Nigerians still depend on importation up to the extent of toothpick. We have toothpick that are imported into this country. We have our leaders preferring SUVs of millions of nairas from other countries, while we have, our locally made, well sophisticated, well branded innocent motors that can service and serve the purpose of utility for any kind of governance. Then we have as little and as very important, when we now begin to talk of welfare, the purpose of governance, food insecurity, sir. Nigeria as it is today, we still depend on imported rice before we can meet we don't have self-sufficiency. So Nigerians, in terms of agriculture, which was the mainstay of our economy many years ago, since democracy, we have still not been able to develop our agricultural sector and system such that we have self-sufficiency in rice, we have self-sufficiency in beef, we have self-sufficiency in all basic food, and to the extent of exporting and making revenue for the country and improving and increasing our GDP. Okay. So in that aspect, you say our leaders, democracy has not really fed well for the people. Not democracy in itself, but the drivers of democracy. And that will make me to say that you cannot really have democratic system of government without Democrats in power.
Okay, let's quickly get to Austin Adigwe, who is a financial expert, to help us out now. Nigeria's economy at this point is actually going through a lot. Looking at some of the policies of this current administration, do you think these policies are sustainable? Austin Adigwe.
Well, if the policies were sustainable, we wouldn't have been seeing a lot of reversals. When you find policy reversals, it tells you something, that someone did not work his numbers and also did not consider the multiplier effect. I came in by just giving you a rundown of multinationals that may likely exit the economy, okay, owing to the very stringent and difficult operating terrain. And that was orchestrated by the policies of subsidy removal and then floating of our naira. You could see the humongous losses that corporations have had to bear now, the likes of Dangote Cement, Boa, Nestle, reporting well over 627 billion in losses due to the president's pronouncement of floating the naira, which led to serious depreciation in our currencies. That's not the kind of policy, because see, if you must leave your currency to the vagaries of demand and supply, you must be very sure that you are strong on the supply side. Because once there is deficiency, okay, on the supply side, you expect this level of depreciation. But come to think of it, there is also an intention behind all this. If you look at that floating of naira at a period where companies are folding up because of exchange rate losses, between July 2023 and March of 2024, federal government shared, okay, 3.1 trillion in exchange rate gain. If you check your fact, go to MBS, just look at what was shared, okay, among the various tiers of government. So you're just seeing transfer of wealth from the private sector that drives the real sector to the public sector where we still keep financing, all right, their lifestyle. Because if government is making more money, it should also show in improvement in the infrastructure. And I don't want anybody to tell me that they've done this, they've done that. Infrastructure in every economy improves efficiency. Don't tell me where the roads are. I will just see it on my dining table that this that I used to buy 2 naira is now 1 naira. And the reason is that the travel time of the transporters has been reduced because the roads are fixed. So when you talk of infrastructure, you're talking of, the platform that reduces, all right, that increases efficiency in the system, which consequently reduces the cost. So you look at it from every angle. All you see are policies that are not consistent with the solution they are trying to profile. Look at CBN. I think I was in your studio sometime in December 2022 when I said categorically that the issue of rate hike will not solve our inflationary problem because we're actually facing cost push inflation. Just imagine that since 2022 May, we have been hiking rate from 11.5% when inflation was 17.71%. We have now moved it to 26.25%, and inflation is still at 33%. It's only insanity that makes any group or someone do the same thing and then expect different results. So the policy of this administration, as far as I'm concerned, has pushed more Nigerians into poverty, and there is no hope that things will get better because things get better not because you want them to get better. Things get better because you're seeing policies that are directed towards solving specific problems.
Okay, Daniel Okwe, if you are still there, Daniel Okwe, let's quickly get to you now. If you're still there, there was a time Nigeria was ranked one of the corrupt countries in the world. How do we address the issue of corruption that is bedeviling us as a nation?
Thank you very much. How to address it is simple. You just need to lead as a leader, you need to lead by example. 50% of the problem, just like if your family, your wife, your children, you yourself have taken a decision to do the right thing, we will eradicate corruptions by 50%. Because corruption is promoted as a result of selfishness. Prioritizing your self-interest ahead of the general interest by insisting on not doing the right thing. Look at all our talks today, our National Assembly and all those places. So much allegations, thinking about themselves ahead of the general interest. So change begins with us. That is the first thing you need to think. Nigerian people deserve the best. And the earlier we do that, the better for us because the country is bleeding of corruption. And they are not actually happy because they are rendered unemployed. All our sectors are property. Until we begin to engage in production ahead of consumption. Presently in Nigeria, we are a consuming nation. Consuming without producing anything, a nation cannot grow like this. Most of our industries have been folded. People are leaving Nigeria because of corruption. I was in Germany and they passed a law and everybody respects their law. No nation can move forward with high rates of corruption. It is not possible. And when we realize that early, the better for us because time is running out. The youth are asking questions. Before,
Okay, if you Your
Hello.
network is actually breaking. Let's get back to the studio. We'll return back to you in a moment. We hope to have a better connection with you. Comrade Obidi, can corruption ever be a thing of the past in Nigeria?
Well, I think there's nothing that is not possible, or there's nothing that is impossible. Even if corruption is not totally eradicated, but we can reduce corruption to a negligible, limit, such that, it becomes a thing that everybody, wants to reject in the society. But as it is now, corruption is becoming very attractive, such that even those that are not corrupt are waiting or looking for an avenue that they too themselves can be involved in the corruption and in the what is called sharing of the national cake. That is how it all started. We want to have a bite in the national cake. And how do you have a bite in the national cake? It's either you skewed a law, or maybe an issue that has to do with the nation, to your personal interest. Can corruption ever be eradicated or reduced? The answer is yes. Ask me how. Now, the Nigeria country has always, built strong individuals. We are supposed to have strong institutions that drive governance, that drive democratic system, and that drives the economy. When we have strong institutions and weak individuals, corruption will be eradicated. But when we have strong individuals and weak institutions, you have individuals who can be at the comfort of their sitting room, and they will call CBN and influence a policy and demand for a certain amount of dollars without due process.
From the comfort of their home.
From the comfort of their home. We have individuals who will sit at the comfort of their home. We call the judicial system of this country and dictate and tell them in a particular case, this is my interest and this is how I want it to be. We have persons who will call the Nigerian police. For example, we had cases where the issue of herdsmen and all of that clashes, and you have people complaining. They said, we made arrests and we took some certain persons to certain quarters, and before we got there, they said a call came from above that certain persons should be released. Now, you have the issues of insecurity in this country today being affected not because we don't have soldiers. Our soldiers are the best military, the best foot soldiers anywhere in the world. We have went to Ecomog War. We have went to Liberia peacekeeping. We have went to many United Nations peacekeeping, and we came out with results. How come that from over how many years Nigerian soldier cannot send Boko Haram or whatever you call it to extinction? It is because we have diverse levels of influence and infiltration.
Okay.
Political and alike in our security agency. And that is why many people have argued that our insecurity issue today is a big business to many quarters. Okay, so how we can eradicate? It is for us to build strong institutions such that even Mr. President, the Nigerian president is the most powerful in the world, cannot influence any institution. Call it INEC, it cannot influence any institution. When Mr. President is the one who appoints INEC, is the one who appoints judges, is the one who appoints the police boss, is the one who appoints the chief of army staff and all of that. We need to build our institution and make laws so that there is a way that this key and very sensitive institution can have how they float, how they grow into their various, level of ranking. But not on appointment basis.
But there must certainly be a reporting line. There must be a reporting channel.
Yes, that you report to Mr. President. Doesn't make you doesn't make you solely, in quotes,
answerable to
it. You are answerable to the Nigeria state.
Okay.
If the law is such that it is very clear that Mr. President cannot hire and fire, then these persons who occupy this office can be loyal to the constitution and to the Nigerian people and not to an individual.
Okay, let's get to Austin Adigwe now in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's still deal with the issue of insecurity. What seems like a regional thing in a particular region, the northern part of the country, as it were, has actually spread to other parts. It has spread. We now have the IPOB. We now have so many agitators, and lives are going down on daily basis. This administration has also recorded a significant number of insecurity, and it's really posing a serious threat to us. Is there a missing link between the military and our security architecture system?
Okay, you must also understand that there is a direct correlation between poverty and insecurity. You cannot really fight insecurity to a standstill and at the same time inflicting serious economic pains on the people. Yes, I agree there are people that are criminally minded who still go into crime, okay, in spite of whatever provision the government has made. But there are millions of our compatriots that might be thinking of just doing anything possible to feed themselves. That's because they are still operating below the physiological needs in life. So the first point of call in to solving the insecurity problem in this country is to adopt a dual approach of both military and economic solution. You see, there is this popular saying in our palace that a hungry man is an angry man. When you go without food for days, it affects your mental state. It affects your ability to even see the humanity in yourself, let alone others. So I believe that the government that is going to solve our insecurity problem must look at reduction in the poverty level, give people that sense of belonging. When you talk of patriotism, it comes from a place of individuals acknowledging that government has done so much for me, so the least I can do now is to be patriotic. So if you elevate, move people away from that poverty gap, then apply military approach as well, okay, towards resolving the insecurity, you're likely going to have a faster result. And again, why are we so mechanical about this insecurity issue? Everywhere in the world, okay, insecurity is dealt with using technology. When are we going to start deploying cutting-edge technology that will geolocate whoever is committing any crime? Okay, even if you leave the scene of the crime, months later, we have the technology to still track, play back, understand what happened, even use it to learn and get into the minds of criminals, understand how they operate. For as long as we are still adopting this mechanical approach of fueling one van and have men risk their lives, driving up and down, monitoring, how much can these guys actually do? So the time has come for us to tap into technology and drive most of our surveillance, most of our security operations via technology. But I think the reason why that has not actually become manifest is because of what your guest also alluded to. Insecurity has become an industry now. So people are cashing out. People are making so much money. And that's the reason why it's so important that we don't even allow any undesirable states first start to this level. You can imagine the vote that goes to insecurity. If you're the beneficiary, you just want to keep this insecurity going so that these monies will keep coming. So we can solve insecurity problem because that is what is also driving up the food inflation, because farmers are not in farm and we are not mechanized in terms of.
Okay, Daniel Okpe, thank you so much. Austin Adigwe will return back to you in a jiffy. Daniel Okpe, let's get to you now in Kaduna. How would you assess the fairness and transparency in our electoral system? How do you assess it?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Fairness. The way forward is this. To address, to speak what happened in our previous elections. We need. I can actually commend the Ninth Assembly for taking the boldness to amend our electoral. We're supposed to be building on it, but there are some lacuna and needed to be worked on. But if I'm to judge the electoral reform, I think we're on the right direction because bills have come to stay. We need to build on it so that it will be credible to deliver the kind of elections that we are aspiring to have in our country. Because failure to tackle those lacunas and blocking the loopholes of where we'll be experiencing technicalities and glitches, I think it will actually paint us bad limelight in the society. Because as it stands right now, there are so many things that need to be done for us to have nearly perfect electoral reform. But I can say we are on the right direction and we'll get it right.
Okay, Comrade Emmanuel, looking at all the elections we've had so far, we've seen a sitting president in this country lose election and congratulated the person who actually won the election. It happened between President Goodluck Jonathan and President Muhammadu Buhari. Is there a way we can improve our electoral system?
I think from 1999, the Obasanjo administration, which handed power over to Yar'Adua, one of Yar'Adua's core point agenda was reforms in the electoral system. He is one president who said, I agree that the election that brought me to power was not free and fair. And by way of compensating Nigeria and the system, I am going to build an electoral system that will stand the test of time and follow the rule of law. And that is what he actually started, but unfortunately, he never had the opportunity to pursue it through. But when Goodluck came, Goodluck also stood in that light. So from the Obasanjo to the Goodluck era, I think we had an improvement in our electoral system. Okay. But from Goodluck to Buhari down to where we are now is becoming something of very grave concern, and it is worrisome. A situation where we now have the court being the one to pronounce who wins an election. It is wrong. Election is supposed to be decided through the ballots, through the will of the people. Not when you have, after your election, you have court cases and series of obvious court cases where you see judgment that is tantamount, or that is tantamount to Nigeria making the statement these days that what we have is a judiciary president or a court governor and all of that. Why? Because it was perceived that they were giving those offices from the court, not the will of the people. So, having said that, election is a process. We must now engage the system critically. The National Assembly must wake up, and we must make the rules such that our elections should end at the ballots. It should be from what the people have decided and what the process with which the ballot system has decided such an election. Take for example in the 2023 election, we said beavers. There was going to be an electronic transmission of results, real time. As you vote, it reflects, and all of a sudden the electoral umpire, of which we spend billions of Nigeria, had Nigerians taxpayers' money, to organize that election. At the middle of the match, they have to shift the goalpost. That no, that election, the presidential election, will no longer be decided by beavers, but it will be decided by manual collation and all what have you. So that window that was given to INEC to so decide who and how that election, it should be a thing. There should be a reform. A reform in the electoral system should be a continuous one, so that such an issue will be arrested.
Okay.
Because good governance begins from your electoral system. If it is clear today that it is the people that decide who governs and rule them, because that is not what it is today. If it is very clear to our political class that it is the people that decide leadership, everybody will sit up. They will have no choice than to ensure good governance to please the people. Because every 4 years you will come back to them. And the people will have the opportunity to rate your government, to assess governance, to assess how you have performed. And if you are deemed to have performed well, they will return you back. And if not, they will give you a red card via their ballot.
Okay.
So we must make ballot and our electoral system work. That is how democracy can also work.
Okay, Austin Adigwe, some stakeholders are of the opinion that the judiciary hasn't been fair to an extent. They've not been upholding the democratic value, and they've not been keeping up to the tenet of rule of law. Do you agree with that?
Yes, to a very large extent, looking at several judgments, okay, and then the laws that we are very familiar with, we can see the judiciary has been part of the problem. There is no economy that will make much progress without upholding the rule of law. There are instances where we could find from the judgment of competent court of jurisdiction, okay, judgments that run foul against the tenets of our laws. So the Nigerians have every reason to feel that judiciary have let them down. You could see the case of Akpabio, who contested presidential and suddenly went back and down. He was able to contest as a senator, and then he became the Senate president. Look at Lawal, that didn't even participate in the primary. So these are direct affronts. These are direct affronts to the laws of the land. And when we see these things, when we lay this sort of precedents, people can now deduce quite a number of things to judgments that are coming from the court. But it's a dangerous thing. We must not allow judiciary reduce itself to the pulpits of the executive, because what it means is that nobody will now rely on their judgments. Nobody will want to actually seek redress in court, and that will degenerate into anarchy. But I think they failed, and they know that they have failed.
Okay, quickly, Daniel Okpe, thank you so much, Austin Adigwe. Daniel Okpe, help us now. The youth and women, do you think their voice have been heard in a bid to strengthen a sustainable democratic process? Is Daniel Okpe still there?
Yes, thank you very much for this. I like speaking for the youth. And if you go to the streets, our streets today, the youth are rendered unemployed, unproductive, because there was no job. So I will tell you with honesty that the youth are not happy with the government. The youth are not happy because the government have abandoned them. Nothing, there's no plan for the youth. How do you expect the youth to be happy? There will be no happiness. And once there is no happiness, there will be no better society. Our women are running petty services on the street. They've even most of them have turned into prostitution because there was no proper plan. There is no organized policy that will protect the youth. Go to the workforce. Their youths are productive youths. But in our society today, most of our youth are into alcohol, drugs abuse, different kind of crimes. Our cells today are meant for the youth and women. They are vulnerable to most of those things because our government does not pay attention to youth. Look at our governments today. What policies are they passing to affect positive change, a productive change in the lives of our youth and women? We are in a society where we need to see that we have failed. Let our leader guide right and pass a part positively on our youth and the women in order for them to be productive in the society. So their voice will be heard. But as it stands right now, I'll confidently tell you, from the survey, our youth are not happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. We'll return back in a moment. Now, you are the president of the Network of Civil Society of Nigeria, and to an extent, we cannot overrule the contribution of rights activists in our democracy. And but some persons, there's a concern. Some persons felt that to an extent, people that are supposed to be rights activists, they're actually selling out. They are becoming political instead of standing on the fence. What role have the civil society played so far?
I think that is a very wrong perception in all standard and entirety. The fact is that being a right activist, or let me say the civil society community, is the third leg of the tripod standing between the government and the big business. We have the government, we have the capitalists. The civil society itself is a large aspect of the society, including the press. The press is part of civil society, including the religious body. We have community-based organization. We have a civil society organization. We have a religious-based organization. And even the traditional institution, they are part of civil society and the general masses. Okay? So, as a matter of fact, we need more of right activists venturing into our political space, so that we can have an example of what good governance and what effective representation of the people is. Because beyond criticizing government, we must be able to criticize and provide solutions to the issues that are on the table. So there is no way as a right activist or as a civil society in any aspect that has to do with governance and the people, you sit on the fence. You must be able to take a stand with the side or on the side of the people. And many a times when we have governance and we have governments that are delivering the dividends of democracy to the people and ensuring the rule of law, such a government should enjoy the support of the civil society community, because that is what the civil society stands for. And when we have government that is becoming, a tyrant to the people, that is becoming, very underperforming, the civil society should be able to rise up in its stand to say, no, this is not the way to go, and this is not how the people should be governed. So it is like a two-edged sword. So it's like a watchdog to leadership. So the civil society have a greater role to play. But what we have today is that when you have civil society criticizing government and government policy, people like what you just say are quick to label them. If you say a government has not fared well, a government who cannot pay minimum wage to its workers or to its workforce, take for example, a government who can afford over 160 or 60 million naira SUV and built, a vice presidential lodge of over 21 or 25 billion, cannot pay 200,000 or 150,000 as minimum wage to his worker who is the engine room of such government and such and the workforce of that nation. Many of them has their family of 5, family of 6. Those children will go to school. Those children will access health care. Those children they have shelter over their head. They will feed, and you are debating meager 30,000, between 30,000 and 50,000 as minimum wage for them. So such government has to be resisted by the civil society. And when you engage such government critically to do the right thing, they'll say, hey, they've been paid. They want to label them so that their voice will not be effective. So the truth is that the place of civil society is like a watchdog in the system. We must be able to stand with the people and mobilize and sensitize the people to do the right thing. For example, in an election process like this, you must be able to tell them, open your eyes. This is what you need to watch out for, so that you can see and be able to decode the leadership, the government that will bring succor to the people. Because as a matter of fact, when we have good governance and good leadership, the civil society have lesser work to do.
Okay.
It is when we have bad governance you see protest every day.
All right, let's get to Austin Adigwe. Now, Austin Adigwe, how is Nigerian democracy now perceived internationally?
Well, I feel that there are so many metrics that can actually be used to achieve that. Politically, well, one might look at Nigeria as a stable state in the sense of peaceful transition. Okay, but if you also look at the economic side, it's clear that the democracy is not working. Because if government of people by the people and for the people is pushing more Nigerians, all right, into poverty, giving rise to people escaping practically from their country. You've heard of this Japa syndrome. People are stepping up, immigration laws just to ensure that flood of Nigerians don't come into their country. So it tells you that there is something fundamentally wrong, structurally wrong with whatever system of government that we are operating. And some may argue that, yes, there is freedom of speech, you can actually air your views and so on and so forth. But the reason why people would always voice out to air their opinion is for government to pick one or two things from this criticism and to make things better. So generally, Nigeria has not moved since 1999. We have remained predominantly an import-driven nation. That hasn't changed, even though we've changed different administration within this democratic journey. So I think in the global setting, Nigeria may just be seen as a joke. I told my friend, I said, look, do you think God would have just created every country to be very, very serious minded and doing the right things? Probably he created Nigeria to just become the comedy of other nations. When you're too serious, when you're too choked up, just think about Nigeria and it makes you laugh. And that's just on a lighter note. But what I just meant to say is that this is the most populous black nation in the world. Back in 2014, 2015, we're the biggest economy in Africa. Today we are fourth. We have retrogressed in everything. In 2015, the per capita GDP was 2,680. Today is $1,680. Right? Now, so you find that in every sphere, Nigeria has not made progress. So I believe we are the laughing stock.
Okay,
in the global
Daniel
space.
Okpe, this is going to be your final take on the show as we are actually running out of time to return to Abuja for the next segment. Quickly help us. Do you think the political class has been fair to the over 200 million Nigerians?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will tell you with all honesty that our political class has woefully failed because they've cornered all the resources that is meant to 200 million Nigerians to their personal and family pockets. They don't think about the masses. They don't think about what we go through. They think about themselves. And it's so painful. And that is why the youth and the people of Nigeria will wake up and face the reality. Look, let's come to a round decision, chart the way forward if Nigeria is to remain as a nation. There is presently, I'm not seeing a united Nigerian. I am seeing a divided Nigerian. If things are not quickly tackled, the youth are angry. The people of Nigerians are angry. They want to see a working nation. Like other nations, I travel to some countries, some of our politicians, and we see how they live their life. It's actually painful. Imagine
thank you so
an
much.
ex-governor
We need
came
to
to the
call
government.
it a wrap now. We sincerely apologize for interrupting. That's Daniel Okpe, the Eagle Brain Youth Transformative and Development Initiative, the chairman. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Kaduna. And of course, Austin Adigwe, a global analyst a financial expert and the voice behind the music or the singles, Chizaram and Answer. Thank you for joining us all the way from Lagos. And here in the studio, we appreciate you, the Knoxon President, Emmanuel Ogbedi Comrade, for being on the show.
Thank you very much.